Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Bokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focused on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Reliable information. History. Ooh. Talking about culture. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is Tough Talking Thursday. If you think we forgot, it's Tough Talking Thursday. The two stories we are discussing, the SUP April 14 protest and the police response to that protest, as well as the push for Yekeh's impeachment. Again, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia, the show where we don't whisper around the issues, we confront them head on. Tonight, the streets of Monrovia are still choking with tear gas. The students are angry, the police are defensive, and the public is demanding answers. And as if that wasn't enough, on Capitol Hill, the temperature is rising high. This time over Representative Yekeh Koluban, who now faces a possible impeachment for comments he made about the Liberia-Guinea border crisis. Is this accountability, or is this politics dressed up as discipline? Two big stories, two national flashpoints, and a panel that is not here to play polite. Let me welcome Wando Konyere Freeman. He's an attorney, an economist, also a financial crime specialist, and a panelist right here at Focus on Liberia. Welcome, Attorney Freeman.
Okay, thank you so much, Dennis. I'm so happy to be here and to go into the happenings in our native land, Liberia.
Thank you. Well, we are also awaiting more panelists, including Dr. Clarence Pearson. He's the new progressive commentator. Anytime from now, he's going to join us. And this is our way of welcoming you to Focus on Liberia. We are back with Tough Talking Thursday. On Thursday night, we don't beat about the bush, we confront it. So, Attorney Freeman, let's start with the protest. You know, I did some commentary. The protest, the tear gas, and there's conflicting reports. I had a post that, what did this girl do? And say, hey, she did this. People are throwing stones. And what is your understanding of what transpired on April 14 that sparked the response or the excessive force from the police?
That's the day that the Student Unification Party of the University of Liberia, which is a student group and not like a regular political party. So they decided to have a protest, and they termed it as, I think, protest for jobs and justice. I think it was properly named. But there is a tendency of like intolerance of protests. Not dating back to this regime, but dating back even to the previous regime and the regime before that. That every time people are in power, they think that they are doing so well and that there is no need for protest. But the Constitution provides for it, and I guess we will have to discuss it a lot during these times. But yeah, so they met in with resistance because I think before then the Ministry of Justice has said that they didn't get permit, and so they kind of outlawed the protests and all of that. And eventually it ended up into a bloody mess, a bloody violence, which reminded everybody of similar violence under the previous CDC regime, and which was very sad overall.
Right. So, and that's something let put on your legal hat, right? So I know you wear many hats. Uh, you are coming close to being deputy well-rounded.
Yeah.
But how should protest, before I protest, what is required? What does the law say? Permit, where you should be, police. Right now, and let me give the background. Since the protest for rights and rights that people
Yeah.
call the rights riots, they say, well, if you haven't protest, you should be prepared. One reason that people are talking against is the leaders of the protest did not prepare the protesters. So according to the law, what should we do before we protest? Should the government allow it? Do we permit in all the 9 years?
That is the biggest problem that I have with the protest situation in Liberia. Because under our constitution, if you look at some of the constitutional provisions that could be interpreted either directly or indirectly or supporting protests, we look at Article 13. And Article 13 speaks of freedom of movement. Article 15 provides for freedom of expression. And Article 17 provides for freedom of assembly. So a lot of time when people want to protest, it may involve an element of freedom of assembly. It could involve an element of freedom of expression. It could involve an element of freedom of movement. Sometimes they may work together, but sometimes they may be in opposition to each other. So, but the issue about permit is controversial because while the police sometimes say, okay, you need to get permit, they are not citing a statute that tells us that this is how you are supposed to or exercise your right to freedom of assembly or freedom of, it seems like the permitting works only when you want to protest against the government. Because I've been in Liberia, I see churches, maybe they don't protest per se, but they just get on the street and they march. I see schools, Gala Day, they ready, they just get on the street and they march. But if you say, oh, I want to march against the government, then the government say, oh, well, you need protest. But my sense is, I don't want to believe that the framers of the Constitution intended that if the government is doing something wrong and you want to correct it, the government needs to give you permission. So I think what needs to happen, because a lot of time the Constitution may provide for a right, but the Constitution doesn't spell out the details of how those rights may be exercised or how they may be circumscribed. So what is required is that there's supposed to be a statute that is supposed to lay out how you exercise it. Let's say, for example, the Constitution encourages the government to provide health and education for all the citizens. But you have an education law, you have a health law, and those laws will break down how you access your right to health or how you access your right to education. The Constitution provides for due process and for criminal procedure, but it doesn't spell it out in details. But now we have the penal law and we have the criminal procedure law and we have even the civil procedure law. So those laws will back up how you access those rights. What I see missing significantly in the Liberia governance architecture is a detailed statute on how people exercise freedom of assembly and freedom of expression. And like I said, because sometimes they may conflict with each other, so it's very important. What I see is that people will be in opposition and they will protest, like the CDC was for 12 years when United Party was in power. CDC government protested for the entire 12 years.
Yeah.
And they always have running battles with the police. When they got to power, they decided the country was all right now, so there was no need to protest. They started having problem with the same people who were protesting for 12 years decided that there was no need to protest. And in fact, there was no need for freedom of expression because everything in the country already started chasing around political opponents, beating up students, and they are out of power. And United Party is back in power now. CDC is saying, "Oh, protest is so good. Protest is our constitutional rights." So what happened is that the both groups are playing the lack of statute for their benefit. When you're out of power, you say protest is very good and it's our constitutional right, freedom of assembly, we got to exercise it. And as soon as you get in power, instead of bringing about a statute that will properly define how these rights can be accessed, you abandon it, and now you decide that okay, when you want protest, now you got to come for permission, knowing very well that if you are in the government, you don't want to give the permission, so you say let's come for permission. But what will happen if you have a statute, right? If even they tell you to apply, you can apply. If you deny it, the statute will tell you where do you make your appeal. But in the absence of that, there is always going to be contestation between the government not wanting to allow a protest and the citizens saying, "Look, but the Constitution didn't tell you can restrict my right to protest." So it's going to remain like that until we do something about it. And we are an old country. We should have written that law a long time ago, but we haven't. So I guess maybe on a public order regular, but most of the time when the Ministry of Justice say come for permit or stuff like that, they don't cite a particular law, do they?
I don't remember, but it appears that they are deliberately keeping that open so they can use it when they get in power.
That is wrong. That is why it's supposed to be a public law available to everybody to say, okay, if you're going to have an assembly or you're going to protest, this is the procedure, this is the process, and if we deny your right, this is where you're supposed to appeal. Those are administrative issues that can be done. It can be done by a statute and it can be done by a regulation. But in the absence of that, they just say, "Oh, because they're using because we're responsible for law and order, so we get a right to tell you, to come for permission." And obviously, they will tell you they will deny it and stuff like that. So, and the activists who want to do the protest will say, "No, but the Constitution granted it all. The Constitution didn't say that you should deny." So, I really, really feel that there should be a statute clarifying or how people do the assembly, how people do the protest, and where can be protest, which places are off limit for protest. Those are things that need to be clear. For a country that has been in existence since 1847, it's a shame that we don't have such a laws. Right. It's a shame. And we need to do it as fast as possible because we continue to have problems. And as long as you're running a democratic society, people will want to protest. People will want to assemble and make their disagreement known. And every time there is brutality, it's totally uncalled for.
So what will happen? Like we see this picture that's going viral. In fact, today I created a statue for this young lady. What will necessitate such and action by the police? Is it like when the protesters become disorderly, or are they going to places they're not supposed to go, or is it because they don't have a permit? What are some of the things that will necessitate such, force? I saw the other picture where they are like pull the girl and then her top shirt was off. She only had, and stuff like that.
Well, if you go by the the notice that came from the police, you will see that the police is even agreeing that they were in the wrong. Because if I read a notice that says the police says they are dropping all charges against the protester and they are launching an investigation of the police. So that should tell you how much, whether the police, if the police had a public regulation against protests or whatever, that should be public information. It shouldn't be something that only the police knows about and nobody else knows about it, and they are the only people using it. I personally am a lawyer, but I don't even know of a regulation from the police or the Ministry of Justice to say this is the procedure that you're supposed to follow if you're going to protest. And if we deny your rights or if we disallow it, this is where you can appeal. What is the period for the application, how much notice, how much time? There's a lot that has to be had. The only thing I see is that the police is always trying to protect the government and trying to suppress protests. That's basically what I've seen over time. And sometimes it ends up in a very violent situation, which is totally unnecessary. Why don't we just write a law and clarify how this thing supposed to occur?
So where really do we draw the line between maintaining law and order and suppressing dissent?
Personally, I feel that the way the police is structured and the way they operate, really, they are too much politically controlled. And now, and like I said, in the absence of that law, the only law we have now is the penal law. Like, maybe the police might say they are into disorderly conduct, they were told to disperse, but some of these things are administrative. Let somebody want to protest, and maybe where they decide to do the protest is not permitted or stuff like that. But none of those things are clear. And none of those things are clear because we have, as a government, as a people, we have never cleared them up. So every time we have the same problem, we're not having a problem just with CDC government. Like I said, in the 12 years that United Party was in power between 2006 to 2017, CDC was protesting every other day. And by the time they took over, they decided it was not necessary for protests anymore. And they were going about beating up people, hurting people, and everything they were doing. And at that time, United Party was in opposition and saying, oh, but protest is very good. Protest is constitutional. The people should protest. Now United Party is in power, and the various CDC people who used to say protest is no longer good are deciding to say, okay, protest is now good. I mean, this is just sheer hypocrisy. So my point is, until a statute is passed, fully clarifying under what circumstances, what are the timeline, how do we do the protest, how do we make an appeal, and all of that, we'll continue to have a situation where the police, I think because they are controlled by the politicians, I think to save their jobs or whatever it is, will always go about brutalizing civilians because they want to protest and other things like that. And they will use the penal law because, to the best of my knowledge, they are using the penal law to go out against people who are trying to protest. Maybe they are saying disorderly conduct and other related public order offenses.
So is there anything in the law, under Liberian law, what threshold must be met before police can legally deploy the tear gas?
I don't know, but that would be under police internal regulation. You mean tear gas, right?
Yeah.
That would be under police personal, I don't know, internal regulation, SOP. Maybe they have a standard operating procedure for the rules of engagement on a protest. But I have my doubts because this is a police that doesn't even keep statistics over the crime rate in the country. So I have my doubts whether they have standard operating procedure, because if it will have standard operating procedure, it will be on their website, on the National Police website. Maybe you can look on the website and see whether they have any such thing, because those are the ways we'll know that there is, okay, this is the threshold. If you go out to, enforce, and maybe the protester does this or they do that, then you can do this. But we don't see it. And maybe if there were investigations and those investigations were made public, we will be knowledgeable. But we don't even have on their website any record of internal discipline that we can ask. Tenants, you live in the US. If, let's say in Atlanta, where you are in Georgia, if there is a police discipline and it was recorded and it was decided, it will most likely be on the website.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to access it and know what specific aspect of the police regulation was violated or stuff like that. But even when they tell you that come and seek permit, they don't tell you what law, under what law you're supposed to seek permit.
Yeah.
And that is the basis upon which most people who want to protest decide that they're not abiding by it, because you're not citing the law under which they are supposed to seek permit. And if you deny them, because that decision is not final, they should have a right of appeal.
Yeah.
But those things are not clear. And that is continuing to cause violence in the country, with people pushing forward with their constitutional right to protest, and the police, which see themselves as protecting whatever government is in power, deciding to brutalize them and harm as many civilians as possible to scare other people from protesting.
So if the police violated the students' constitutional right to assembly, right, or if they detain them unlawfully, if their due process was violated, can the students take them to court?
Yeah, but I don't see that case going anywhere, because one of the sticky issue has been the issue of the claims court that have been mentioned in the Constitution but have never been established by law, which give Liberian citizens who were being harmed by acts of the government an opportunity for them to sue the government and get paid for damages or whatever. So that court is supposed to be like established and pursue, but it has never been done since 1986, more than 40 years or whatever. It's never been done. So that's one of the reasons of the impunity. So the police, we have never had a situation where we've seen police being disciplined, through the regulatory channel that we all know of and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, when they go out to suppress dissent, they are almost operating with total impunity, because they don't have any fear that afterwards they could be held accountable. In the US, I remember the guy from the George Floyd people, they were persecuted, right?
Yeah.
Police have been committing crimes in Liberia for the longest. Do we know of any police person who went to jail for crimes they committed?
No, so right now in Liberia, there are no legal remedies available like for the students,
especially against the government for their wrongful acts. There's no legal remedy. Perhaps if you can identify the specific individual and pursue him, that might work. But I think the individual is most likely to claim that he was acting based on instruction from his superior and it was a government issue. So I'd see it's very unlikely to be successful. And that is one of the disservice with the national legislature. Last year, they spent an entire year fighting for Nati Kofa. When they're not fighting for Nati Kofa, they are fighting over distribution of projects.
Right.
So a lot of legal things or laws that are supposed to be passed, that are supposed to clarify how government is supposed to run or improve the running of government. Of course, they're not paying attention. Like right now, they're fighting over how to expel the Yekeh. So situation happening on the Liberian border, financial issues, accountability issues. None of that is being pursued. So we spend so much time at the national legislature,
On
legislative
the
projects,
certain fees. I said,
setting
yeah,
fees,
yeah, when they call them
vehicles.
computers.
Yeah. So these kind of very important things tend to
But
slip by without any resolution.
so let's look at the role of the civil these pressure groups, right? Because where else can we get justice from? And first of all, even before I get to that, you started by saying the people that said protest good, now protest is bad. If you look in the government, for
Yeah.
instance, the same SUP, the same
Yeah.
Student Unification Party, the finance minister was doing the same thing the student was doing now. The security advisor to the president, Kofi Woos, former student leader, right? So how come these people, what they were doing when they were students, and they wanted, I remember there was Kofi Woos was in a place, and then Vice President Moneyback came there at the university, and he refused to, everybody was telling him he refused to stand because he was protesting. Now these people are in government, and it's like they don't see it. What's going on?
That's the tragedy of Liberia. People don't go into politics from conviction. People just go into politics with an opportunity to have a government seat and to extort as much as possible from the government. You would think that this government would be much more friendly with the student community because, for example, just a few years ago, the George Weah people decided that protest was not good at all, and they were doing everything to stop any and all protests.
Yeah.
And these very people were complaining that protest was good and should be allowed. Now they are in power. They have decided that protest is not good, and now it's the George Weah people that are saying, "Oh, protest is good." So if you talk about someone like Gafwan, I was in college around the time Gafwan was there. He was senior to me, but I know the SUP party was there at the time. I wasn't never a part of them. I was in student and never believed in everlasting protesting. But people like Gafwan and Kofi Woos and other people, they were part of the SUP culture that told the young people of this country that they need to protest for everything. Now, Kofi Woos, in addition, is a human rights lawyer and he's a security advisor. We don't know if Kofi Wu is in the country because a lot of human rights violation is going on, and Kofi Wu is absolutely silent. Kofi Wu is a disgrace. He's a total disgrace because he's a human rights lawyer and he's in this government, and every possible human rights violation is occurring, and nobody can hear a single word from him. And Gafwan should be ashamed of himself because if you look at what's happening, some of these students are following in their footsteps that they set at the University of Liberia. They're following in their footsteps. They were protesting all the time.
Even to go further, Alara Toba, the governance
Exactly.
commission. I remember 1986, and I'm not trying to show my age. I was in 10th grade when that student protest was held, and there was Alara Toba. I still remember. I think there was Dubayan. They were member of LINSU, and because we were in private school, government schools, public school students, we were rich, and so since they were not in school because they were out of school for a month because their teachers said, "Hey, we're not getting paid." So they said, if we can be in school, we'll disrupt our schools. So they came to our school and they were throwing stones, and as a result, schools were closed for 1 month. Right now, Alaro Tuba is quite, even when he was when Weah was in power, he was always on campus.
Exactly.
I wouldn't want to say inciting the student, but they were comrades.
Yes.
And now things.
Now they say protest is bad.
Because this organization too should say something. But now it's like, I mean, where can we find remedy? Because this protestation is going to continue, and the government in power is always going to use brute force.
That's why when I was in school, I was really part of SUP, and I really didn't like the approach, because if they want to protest all the time and there is no law on protest, maybe one of the things they can do is to fight for there to be a law on protest.
Mm-hmm.
so that the law will clarify how protest is, is carried out, when it is carried out, when you're supposed to apply, if you get denied, how you can appeal the decision. But they don't do that. They just go on the street all the time and protest. And if this one government, number one, not empowered, number two will brutalize them. And when number two not empowered, number one will brutalize them. And it's the same thing. So for me, you need to change your strategy. But they're not changing the strategy, they're using the same strategy over and over. And like I said, I must say, when I was in cathedral, I wasn't in a public school, but I remember definitely that during those times while I was in cathedral high school, when there were issues with the public university or the public schools, they would come to our school and they would throw stones and other things. And sometimes it would end up, we would end up staying out of school for a couple of days until it can be resolved. But I mean, I don't really support everlasting protests. So I think if they really want to protect their right to protest, they should pursue the passage of a law at the national legislature that will clarify once and for all how people exercise their freedom of assembly, the freedom of expression, the freedom of movement in one law, so that it makes it clear. And now the government will not be the sole custodian, because if you want to do something, the government say no, you can always appeal the decision through the court. Maybe they might give the jurisdiction to an administrative court.
I think they like it that way because every time they do it, I think they like it that way because every time they do it, the government misbehaves.
But people are getting hurt, Dennis.
Yeah,
people are getting hurt.
They are being able to succeed in making the government unpopular.
But what has it done? Because each time they sat, for example, when Ellen was in power and they were protesting, they were siding with CDC. And they did that for 12 years. When CDC came in power, CDC should have been their partner. But CDC just co-opted a few of them, like Avin Weiser and other people. But CDC said, no, there's no need to protest now because we have already made the country look like Miami.
And Cornelia, let me give you an example. You were talking about protest good and protest bad, right?
Yeah.
Here is this young man who was being beaten yesterday.
No, please, we dropped him. Thank you. Thank you so very much. You are from the land of the thousand hills.
So
from the geographical and territorial expansion of our country, Liberia. We want to say a oneness revolutionary salutation to you. This is a very quick one. We thought it was to inform our people, the ordinary massive, those people who believe in the maintenance and the sustenance of our peace and our democracy. People who believe that Liberia, being a country of democracy, should exhibit what we call the demonstrative simplification of true democracy.
I get confused. Can you cut off the video from the background?
Council of Patriots in a uniqueness.
Yeah, go ahead.
So to me, this problem is not just government issue. It's also the people. Because if we civilians, if we students, because these were fellow students, we join government because of what they're giving us to brutalize other students.
Yeah.
Now when the tables are turned, you are no longer in power. Now you realize protest good and you are going to protest and they are brutalizing you.
Firstly, I was surprised that SUP accepted to protest along with CDC, COP, because if I recall very well, when this thing happened, George Weah said that they don't have any organization in the CDC called CDC COP. He disowned them. But we also saw that the police refused to arrest them. Even after a video evidence surfaced, the police refused to arrest. And up to today, none of them were fully prosecuted. Today, they are full-fledged, recognized affiliate for CDC, and they were operating even during the election. So now they have resurfaced, and they are. This is the like, I support your point. This is the difficult part of Liberia because of lack of principles, or people that are shifting alliances, right? CDC, COP yesterday said Liberia was like Miami, and it was so nice that everything was okay. There's no need to protest. So they went up and beat up the SUP people and said, you don't need to protest. And somebody almost died. Yeah. And now things table have changed, and you have a different group in power, and then they collaborate with SUP, and they went on the street, and they put a new group, the Unity Party people, who were also collaborating with the SUP. They beat up the SUP people now and say, well, the country is already now on a blocker, everything is fine, so why are you protesting? There is no need, you know, and stuff like that. So it is true, but then it's a problem. Without economic opportunities, the young people in Liberia will be susceptible to anybody who willing to pay them a little piece of money and say, go on the street, go protest. The CDC, COP, those are just agents for WIA and the CDC people. They give them money and say, yo, go protest and all these kinds of things. Because when they committed that violence, some people were supposed to go to jail. Yeah. And because they didn't go to jail, the impunity reigned supreme. So people believe that, okay, but then we can just continue with the violence. And, you know, after all, nobody is going to be held accountable. Gregory Como is saying, okay, we're suspending all the charges. No, Gregory Como is not enough. If police people violated their oath, they need to be disrobed and they need to be prosecuted. Right. Okay? It is only by prosecuting and jailing people who commit crime, that's how you end the impunity. We didn't get it under the WIA regime, and there was a lot of impunity, so much violence, death in some cases, people went scot-free. Today, another round of impunity. Gregory Como and other people saying, oh, the police committed some, there's some background noise. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Let me show, can I just maybe try to shut my window or something?
Yeah, I think we can deal with it.
Okay, good. So with, and if the impunity continues, we will have a recycling of the same problems. Yes. When police people commit wrong, they must be investigated, they must be disrobed, they must be charged, prosecuted, and if they need to go to jail, they have to go to jail for people to see. And then other police people, when they are sent out to maybe suppress or protest, they will know that there are rules of engagement and there are things that they can't do. But that's not what we have. We have a situation where these people are acting on political leverage or political instructions, and so they get protection. And at the end of the day, those who feel aggrieved and protest, they just get beaten up. And at the end of it, as a matter of fact, there was another violent protest at CDC headquarters the other time. Yeah. And somehow the police were blamed again, because even at that time, they had a 40 arrest warrant that they said was never issued by a proper judge, or it was never issued properly. So the police was at fault again, but by that time they beat up people the same way.
Let's take a short break. When we come back, we will conclude on the police brutality and go to Yekeh Koluba. Liberia, our country, Liberia. We are discussing the SUP April 14th protest and the police response, plus the push for Yekeh's impeachment. This is focused on Liberia, and this is Tough Talking Thursday. If you have not already done so, please share the video, invite someone, and let's talk. Because at the end of the day, we all need to be responsible citizens. Why it's true that we want peace, but the right of the citizen to protest is guaranteed under the Constitution. What should citizens do? Don't protest or get the permit from the person you're going to protest against. Is it fair? Would it be granted a permit? And what are some of the things that when they violate, they should be beaten the way we saw them? I had a video here where I talk about, I compared 1979 protests with the 2026 protests. What we saw was heavy-handedness from the government, but at the end of the day, President Thomas spoke. He talked about what happened because he was addressing a country that was on edge. So he spoke to address the need, to tell the people, hey, what has happened, but I'm with you. We are looking for the ringleaders and we'll do X, Y, Z when we find them. In the case of President Bouaka, he hasn't spoken, right? So I was making it. So what happened when the leader is not speaking on these kind of critical issues? If we have anxiety and there's nobody to tell us, that things are fine, except for his press secretary and sometimes the information minister, who sometimes says some things that are not really nice. Do you hold President Bouaka responsible for not talking to us on these kind of issues?
I'm not very good at politics. I mean, I don't know, maybe his leadership style is to lead by silence. But personally, if it were in my case, I would speak a little more frequently, and especially when there is a national imperative and there's a reason to speak, I would do so. What I hold him more responsible for, if there are laws that are supposed to be passed in the national legislature that will clarify some of these issues, I probably hold him responsible for that, because part of the reason why he was elected was that he would have vast knowledge in governance. And so if there were problems that were affecting the government from time in, time out, he had a vast knowledge and he knew how to solve those problems. And now that he's been in power for 3 years, we don't see those vast knowledge being employed. What we see is from one catastrophe to another. We started with a controversial yellow machine. We went to narcotech scholarship scandal. We went to Fonati Kofa scandal. We now to Yekeh situation. We had an incursion across the border. We have lot of problems after problems, and almost there is hardly any leadership being exhibited. But yeah, not being good in politics, I would probably hold him more responsible for laws that were never passed at the national legislature that continue to foster a climate of confusion over how people exercise their constitutional rights to assembly and how they exercise their constitutional right to freedom of expression.
Thank you. That takes us to Yekeh Koluba. We are all aware of who Yekeh Koluba is. He used invectives to get his points through. He has shifted alliances quite often. It appears that he is always going to side with the opposition because that gives him leverage to be Yekeh. This time around, his colleagues are pushing to expel him because of remarks or comments he made concerning the Liberia-Guinea border, where he said the land in dispute is actually Guinea's land. Up to date, I don't know if you know, but we are really not getting any clear-cut information as to what really happened, who's responsible. I remember Councillor Tiawa said Gonglo called on the president to investigate. By then, we think a commission will have been constituted to really investigate what happened. Whether, as of today, whether Guinea is still occupying our land, we don't know. Let's start with the law. It is in the Constitution that the House can expel its member based on certain things. Does the House, in this case, first of all, bring us to speed with that law that says that if you commit certain offenses, you can be expelled by your colleagues, even though your people voted for you to be elected?
Okay, so Article 38 is in the Constitution, right?
Right.
In the Constitution, Article 38 is what talks about the House, or they say each House shall adopt its own rules of procedure, enforce order, and with concurrence of 2/3 of the entire membership may expel a member for cause. Okay, so all rules adopted by the legislature shall conform to the requirement of due process of law laid down in this Constitution. So there are two parts to it. Part one is that you can adopt your own rules and you can expel a member for cause. The cause was never defined. And part two to it is that you must follow the due process of law.
Right. And that due process can be anything, almost.
Yeah. Well, it can be anything because there are things that are stated in the Constitution that constitute due process. And besides things stated in the Constitution, there are case law that have been established that define what due process of law is. So it can be anything. What can be anything is probably the for cause, but it still has to be for a wrong, for some violation of either their administrative rules or for violation. I don't hold to the view that they can charge him for something that is not in their rules. So what are the charges they charge him for, and which part of the rule says established the wrong that he did? Because if I recall, they say gross misconduct, right? I think that's one of the charge.
Yeah.
They say violation of his oath, and I think there's a third one. I have to check it out. Right, Dennis, don't you remember what they charged Yekeh for?
I'm trying to pull it out too.
Yeah, that's what I recall. Gross misconduct, violation of his oath. So it has to be in the rules. If it's not in the rules, it's going to be problematic because they can make up their own charges. It has to be in the rules that if you do this or if you do that, likely this will be the result. What they did in the rules, in my mind, was just to restate. I think in let me find the rules number 9 and 9.2 to be specific. Any member may be expelled from the House by a resolution of 2/3 majority. Personally, I would tell you if this rule, because what the Constitution states, the rules were supposed to expand a little bit to explain, because now the rules doesn't say anything about violation of oath. It's not clear. I mean, you can check for gross misconduct. What does it say? And what are the likely punishment and stuff like that. But I don't see it. I'm checking. I don't see it. But that's what they're charging with. And I feel like, you recall if you read philosophy, they tell you similar things that they did to Socrates when they charged him for corruption of the youth.
Corrupting the
youth. They charge him for corruption of the youth. So whatever they decided to be corruption of the youth, it was very easy. So all this violation of oath, but right under due process of law, what you charging him with is supposed to be in your rules. It can be something that you can come up with on the fly, and that's how they encounter problem on the first day because the lawyer said, okay, so what are the charges? What are the evidence? And what are the rules that we're dealing with? And they said, no, well, in fact, sir, we're not going to allow you to talk here, which is understandable. But the request they put in made a lot of sense. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, the request they put in made a lot of sense. If we're going to have a discussion about a violator, let's start with what evidence you have. What have I violated? 1, 2, if you are going to conduct a proceeding, what rules are we conducting the proceeding under? And you know, if there's going to be some legislative rules or if there are going to be special rules, everybody needs to know. I don't think the legislature is making it any better by trying to act in a hurry to say, no, we don't have time. We got to go. We got to happen fast. Everything got to happen fast. There is no such thing. Everything got to happen fast because you have to take care to accord the accused or the due process rights. Due process rights is not something you can say if there are 5 of them, you can say, okay, I gave you 3, send 3 the majority out of 5. You don't need the other 2. We can go ahead. If when it comes to due process, if there are 5 rules, I'm just giving an example, you have to give the person all 5. You can leave 1 out and say, okay, we give you most of your due process, right? Like what they're saying, bring your lawyers. Then the lawyers get there and the lawyers advise him to request certain things. And they say, no, we're not here for that thing. We got to move fast with this trial. The lawyer can't say anything here. They can't do anything here. They're just here to watch the show and maybe whisper in your ear or something like that. Yes, but they made a particular representation. Give us the evidence that you are relying on for which you charge him for gross misconduct and violation of his oath of office and other things like that. And give us the rules that we will be operating under. And then, of course, all hell broke loose and they walk out. And, you know, we're still waiting to see what the Supreme Court will say on that. But
let's put it, and I wouldn't say put it one side, but if we take our eyes off the rules for a minute, what exactly in Representative Koluba's statement that will rise?
I listened to that interview. It was a flippant statement. It was, I would call it a careless remark. I think he was being sarcastic. I don't think he was making a serious mistake because he said, Bwaka said that God is not making any new land.
Right.
So you follow up with that. Okay, same Bwaka said God is not making any new land. Guinea decided Liberia got our land, so Guinea came for their land. But it didn't cut across to me like he was making it in a serious, you know, gesture. He was being flippant about it, and let's say half jokingly. Yeah.
What if he was serious about it? Would that be impeachable?
No. Because then let me break this down for you, right? There are crimes of omission and there are crimes of commission. Right? Let's say negligence. In negligence, you fail to do something.
Right.
And that failure to do something, you commit a crime. Then a crime of commission, let's say sexual assault of a minor. It has to be something that you actually did. Okay. So if you are charging him for like treason or something like that, that is not a crime of omission. That is a crime of commission. You have to do something.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to do something in order for that thing to for that crime to be committed.
He undermined the authority of the president. He undermined the state. So that's something.
Yes, but it can't go by words alone. It has to be words plus some physical act, right?
Like meeting with the Guineans to take the
land. Fine. All Guinea came for the land, but in addition to it, he has to probably send an email to Guinea to say, yes, you know, in fact, I can provide you information on where the land is located, or he has to go to Guinea to meet them, or he has to secretly meet Guinea. He has to send money to them. He has to do something. It is not sufficient for him to sit in the radio and say, oh, Sam Bwaka said, God is not making new land. Because Guinea came for the land. So maybe that Guinea land, let Guinea take the land. It will not be sufficient because that is a crime of commission. Okay? So people need to understand that. So all that thing they say, oh, the man committed, treason is not act. You can say you did it, but because and let's say with the AFL, I would think they have more to answer because their job is to protect the territorial integrity of Liberia, right? And when they fail to do that, their job is a big problem. So they have more to answer. The Liberia Immigration Service, their job is to man the border, and they at the border, and somebody incur on the border, they have more to answer. But the president and the national legislature are not interested in calling the AFL chief of staff. Have they called him to answer why? Where were you when Guinea crossed the border and into our land?
And all the money we're paying to NSA. We're supposed to have operatives in Guinea who can
more
tell us.
than 2 million have been in the NSA. So I'm so sad. The NSA was supposed to be called to answer to why, where were they, where were the intelligence when Guinea crossed the border. The AFL chief of staff, the defense minister was supposed to be called. The Liberia Immigration Service was supposed to be. Those guys have not called any of those people who have a statutory responsibility to protect the border. Yekeh, who went into a studio and was talking, making some stupid remark or whatever, I would say a flipping remark, but it's obvious that they were like watching him and looking for a way to bring him down. So they're just using that.
Because I'm looking at
now you just let me make this point. That's why they are acting smart. They started with treason, but they left the treason, if you notice it. Now they say he violated his oath of office. And it was a gross misconduct. There are 3 charges. I forgot to tell one, but I will check it out just now. That's why they say he did. So they left the treason because they know very well that if they go the treason right, it will not help them because now you have to charge him, you have to carry him to court, there has to be appeal. All that have to happen before you take away his right as a legislator. So they say that rule will be too long. We can't take that rule. Let's put some political charges together, violation of his oath of office, and gross misconduct. Almost like why I say what it is, the secretive corruption of the youth. So let's put somebody fake looking charges together and we can use it to catch him anyway.
So according to I mean, what if he made a statement say maybe I'm going to kill the president, for instance, or the vice president is dead? Because this is statement.
Yeah.
To what extent can a statement rise to that level? Okay.
You have to, Dennis. You have to add statement plus.
Let me welcome Momo. You've been away for so long. Momo, please turn your phone this way, sideways. Go ahead.
You have to have statement plus at least a single action on your part. The statement has to come combined with some kind of action on your part to bring about what you stated, right? I want to kill the speaker. Then I bought a gun. I made a public statement, right, that I will kill the speaker. Then I bought a gun. Then right there now, and it's not a reckless statement now. It's like he had taken one single step to further his statement. In the absence of a single act on your part, it's difficult. It might rise to the level of misdemeanor speech or something, but it can't be anything felony because it has a crime of commission, has to have one single or couple of actions to further the objective of what you stated.
According to the IG, the IG was the one who complained to the House and Councillor Gonglo. Yeah, let me welcome Mr. Momo Tule. Momo, you have to turn your phone sideways and see if you can remove like this way. If you can hear me. Can you hear me? Oh, all right. And he said, wait, but IG, if you thought that Yekeh committed a crime, you should move ahead and arrest him instead of complaining. So let's talk about the role of the police chief. Does that make any legal sense? For the police to see a crime being committed, don't arrest or charge anybody, and you go complain to the present man and say, oh, your son here stealing.
Yeah, because in Labrador, a lot of things are strange. I really don't know because I haven't seen it before, so I really don't know how it works. Where the police is, because the police is responsible for the penal law of Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
So if something violates the penal law, the police does not need an additional permission. But the police is not responsible for the administrative law that governs the national legislature. They have no business. In fact, they are not even supposed to do it because they are in the executive. So the mere fact of him writing that letter in a serious country, the police director will be dismissed for writing that letter because the laws that govern the national legislature is administrative in nature. And anytime you hear police, from A to Z, it must be criminal. It can be anything other than criminal. And under criminal law, every crime is defined. If that crime is not defined, then the police should not put a hand there because it doesn't exist. So I don't know what authority. It only tells me that he doesn't know his function because he is not responsible for administrative law. Is responsible only for penal law. And so if somebody violated the penal law, he doesn't need a permission to investigate. And it's not true that the legislator, he need permission to investigate or legislator that committed crime. Like I will give the example. If a legislator is, let's say, before going to session, he beat a wife, and he's on his way to session. If the police gets the information, the police can arrest him on his way to session and charge him for domestic violence and persecute him in keeping with law. They don't need any special permit from the national legislature to say, oh, honorable man beat his wife to your house and he was on his way to session. So I don't know what the basis, but Liberia is a strange country where a lot of strange things happen and the police doesn't operate according to professional standards. Everything is political in Liberia.
Thank you. Now, let's say what happens to, because from what we see, if they get the required number of votes, they can actually expel him.
Yes.
What happens? So how does he? What will be the remedy?
Well, he can go to court. He can go to court and claim that he was never accorded due process. And I feel, why I have my distrust of the Supreme Court because of the way they treated Prophet Key. I feel Prophet Key is probably in this modern day and age, he's Liberia's first political prisoner. He's a political prisoner. He's being held in jail on charges that violated his due process rights. So I have my doubts about the Supreme Court, but let's assume, because as lawyers, we're supposed to argue both sides of the divide, let's assume that they go to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court go according to law. If the Supreme Court goes according to the law, the first thing is that if they say Yekeh violated maybe the legislative law or whatever, they have to say it. It has to be clear it's not something they will say it to him. It's going to be written and given to him ahead of the hearing. Yeah, it's not something that's always say call him and say we're coming to try you. No, ahead of the hearing, they're supposed to give it to him. The rules that they're going to use for the hearing ahead of the trial, they're supposed to give it to him. If you fail to do those things, it will be violative of the notice requirement under the due process of law. And so if you don't give the person proper notice, it's going to be a problem. But we'll see what the Supreme Court will say. But I strongly believe that due process is something that you have to give 100%. If somebody have 5 due process rights. You can say I give you 4, but the last 1 year you don't deserve it because you always criticizing and you're very hard to deal with. So we'll only give you 4 of your due process rights. We'll not give you the 5th one. You have to give somebody 100% of the due process rights. You can't give them 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5. It has to be 5 out of 5. If that 10, it has to be 10 out of 10.
Thank you. Let me welcome Momo Tule, a man that security man, that army man is everything. So, Momo, welcome. It's been a while.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Am I audible?
Very well, very well.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thanks. And how? Good afternoon or good evening to the panelists. What's his name?
Mr. Freeman.
Cohen and Freeman.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Good to see you, my brother.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So, sorry I gave you the notice late, but I just want to take, before we get to the Yekeh thing, a take on the protest. You know, people are divided. They say the students were throwing stones, so they really had to be arrested. You know, what you make of the protest and the way the police responded? They said a girl from Tottenham High, she was in the protest, and now she's being carried. So what you make of the protest and the way police responded? Was it justified?
First of all, I would like to say that, look, protest is a guaranteed right by the Constitution that every citizen has the right to protest, to express their grievances once they are doing it, in a way that is not disruptive, in a way that won't cause any sort of disruption or chaos. But you can peacefully assemble and put on your placards and, voice your opinion once you are within the confines of the law. But once a protest goes, usually bro, we know the history of SUP. Whenever a new government comes to power, the opposition will throw in a lot of their young people within SUP, try to infiltrate the student body in the UL. They use the UL SUP as a political machinery to sort of attack the ruling regime. That has been a pattern that we've seen years after year. Why it is true that they had some valid reason to protest job, and I think it was about job and something else.
Injustice.
And justice, just are justifiable reasons to come out to demand your government to provide jobs, especially for the young. We have a youthful population, so these young men and women deserve to have a job. As we can clearly see that, jobs has been the issue in that country for decades. From dating back from successive governments, it's very difficult to address the issue of jobs. In that country, Joseph Boakai is not this is not totally on this government. It has been something like that. We always do. Those of us who have supported, support the government, have always said to them, look, we have a youthful population. It's about time that you got to focus on how do we create jobs for our population, that so that they don't become vulnerable. Because once they are vulnerable, anyone can use them to cause mayhem. So yeah, the way the police handle it, I think to some extent was an overreach. In every establishment, whether the police were acting based on their policy, based on whatever, but some of them, I think they clearly overstretched their authority. And one thing about Liberia, right? We don't send police officers to police academy to handle certain situations. Like students, we should have university police. We should have campus police. Those guys will be clearly trained on how to handle issues of students, right? That's why in America or in the West, they have campus police. There's a clear reason why that was done, right? That police officer cannot come from outside easily to just go on campus or arrest. They will come. That's a complete different jurisdiction.
But the students are outside the campus.
Yes, but they are students still. Being outside the campus doesn't mean they're not students, right? They are students, right? So if we had like a police precinct within the university campus, they would have contained that crowd in there, and they would have told the students, right, you can do your protest, but just don't go outside because you'll be in clear violation, and then you might be handled not by us, but it could be something different. So this is something we need to start to look at. How the
But
government
do you
can.
think the students did anything to be, treated this way, like we see the young lady?
For me, no matter what they did, no one should be dragged like that on the floor. It's inhumane, and there's no justification for that. Those officers need to answer some questions as to why that lady was manhandled. To me, that image is not a good image for our country, especially so that we have a fragile democracy, and we trying our best to show our best to the world. That image doesn't show our best, show our worst. So and I trust the leadership of Gregory Coleman to do what is right, and make sure there are clear investigation, you know, into the matter. And I've seen Gregory Coleman dismiss officers for wrongdoing, right? We've seen it. So I'm pretty sure he's looking into it. He's looking at the footages, the images, and the right outcome. I mean, once they conclude the investigation,
Yeah.
and I trust his wisdom, he's going to do something about it. Yeah, but yeah, to sum up on that topic,
Mhm.
some of the images are clearly disturbing, and I mean there could be a better way to handle those students, not to drag, someone on the floor like that.
Now, quickly, I want you to comment on the Yekeh Koluba situation, starting with the border, right?
So,
Do you know what's going on? But now, I mean,
so,
what's going on at the
so,
border? Do we know?
so, so, you and I have talked before, and you know my background.
Mhm.
I serve in the U.S. military here, and I work at the Department of Defense here. For after I got out of the military, I work at the Department of Justice. From there to the Department of Defense, I have pretty close to almost 8 or 9 years with the Department of Defense. So I know what it means to serve in uniform. And I know what it means to serve outside of the uniform, to give support to the troops, to ensure that the mission are accomplished. And what I saw over there is something that I've been talking about since the inception of this government, that we need to build our defense infrastructure, our defense architecture. We don't have it like that. You see, those that are being hired by the president or appointed by the president, it is not just squarely on this government. From successive governments, since Ellen came to power, there was an agreement made, signed between the Liberian government and the Michigan National Guard. And for Ellen, I will give her a little, slack on this, because we had just come from war. We had a real fragile democracy. It was really so. We had army embargo on us. There's no way that you could have, she disbanded the old army, rightly so, to protect herself, because looking at the history, she was the one who they were all like helped to bring the war. They were trying to get rid of Dole and whatever. So all these guys were loyalists to Dole regime, and she was afraid for her own safety. So she's at and then the war also got many of this guy got being involved with the war, and also she had to disband the army, the old army, and bring in a new army. And then she asked the U.S. government to at least assist in helping the new army, right? But there was certain that limitation we had, that we couldn't go full, swing when it comes to arming them. We're just from war, we can't arm them, or we had an arm embargo. But moving forward with that, right? Times have evolved, right? We had government after Ellen 12 years, we had George, we had 6 years, and now why is it that we have an army that is below a brigade size? Why do we have an army that is less than 3,500 men? You got a brigade size is anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 men. A country of 5.5 million plus people having an army like that means we are undermanned, right? We don't have the numerical strength. First of all, that's the first thing. We don't have that numerical strength. We are below that size. So one thing we need to think about is this, right? We had to do. We should be more proactive than be reactive, and that's the issue. When it comes to the military is not reactive. The military is proactive. And look, once that stuff occurred on the, I think it was nobody was, first of all, we have a porous border, right? Open border, right? And that's alone, that alone, I put it squarely on the Department, the Ministry of Justice, right? You are the leading law enforcement arm in the country. You have immigration under you, the police, you have all custom and whatever. You need to identify every portion of our border that are open. If you cannot put some physical object there, then you have to have actual human being man those areas, right? None of those things were done. But moving forward, when the police came, I mean, when the military in Guinea came over, the citizens had to put their lives on the line. You are citizens with bare hands. Those are trained soldiers from another country. But then they still took that bravery because you know why? They looked around and never saw anyone that they entrusted with their life to protect and defend their life around. So guess what? They said, well, we just want to stand up for ourselves. This is our country. We're not allow this to happen. That's an absolute dereliction of duty from the Minister of Justice. That is quite on him. He should have answered questions
And the
when it comes to
commander
that.
in chief.
And the commander in chief, yeah, because the box stops at him. So he has the onus is on him, right? But then when the people left, right? When the citizen, show out and the Guinean soldier went back to their territory, what was the our military doing? Why couldn't they deploy? Why couldn't they bring people immediately to man our post? That is our territory. They should have immediately dispatched or deployed at least maybe a company or a battalion to be stationed over there to deter anyone from coming. We're not going to, not because, look, people always say that, oh, the president did well by using the diplomatic channel. Both things could happen at the same time. We hold our ground while the president negotiate. That means we go into the negotiator with, at a position of strength, not weakness, right? We're not trying to say when we deploy soldiers to go and shoot. Nobody, it's not that. We're just doing what is right to man our post. Our border. First of all, Guinea was in violation of the
Right.
Geneva
So now,
Convention.
and before you end that thought, so looking at that, the dereliction of duty. Now we are. There is a way to say it in my village. So you leave all that and you go to Yekeh because he said, does that make any sense?
Look,
Because it's
the
like
issue of
the threat may still be there, and we are talking about Yekeh say the land for Guinea.
yeah, the issue of Yekeh is a sticky issue, right? Look, Yekeh, where I find Yekeh to be in total error is that
I like that word error, but not
yeah,
treason.
he's a sitting lawmaker. He swore to the very constitution that every soldier, every public official, or every public servant swore to defend and protect the constitution. That includes protecting our territorial sovereignty. Even greater responsibility lie on Yekeh than even with the ordinary citizens. He's a lawmaker. His words carry a huge, 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 huge weight. Sitting there on a public forum as big as Spoon Talk and then spewing out what he said is a serious crime
Like
committed by
what?
him.
Like what?
Which crime?
It might not be treasonous, but it might be like you say.
You on a public forum, so which crime?
Hold on. Okay, that allow me to lay out. Okay, as a lawmaker, when you take oath of office, and you fail and you completely derelict that oath, you violated that oath by your own public utterance. what right he had to say the land belonged to Guinea?
Okay, let's assume for a minute.
First of all, he should not have said that.
Right. So
He
why
said
On the public forum,
he
which
was
crime?
defeated. He was defeated. No, for instance, right? I'm a lawmaker. I came on this platform or whatever platform. Did you listen to what Yekeh said, right?
I listen to it. Why? But man, let's
Okay,
not be around the bush. Which crime he committed?
hold on now. Okay, so if you violate your oath, what's that?
What the oath said?
The oath is to protect and defend.
Right, but what if that piece of land actually belongs to Guinea? Will it be
Okay, no, Dennis, let me come in. I don't know if I can come in now.
Now you open a different Pandora box. What if?
No, what I'm saying, it did not take the land physically. But let's say for any weird reason, let's say that piece of land actually belongs to Guinea. Will it still be a crime?
I mean, that left with people who have our borderline, the original
I'm
map,
just
whatever
an
map.
assumption.
But you see, no, Yekeh was trying to mix politics with something that was very serious.
It's serious, but
that thing was void of no. That stuff was no. We shouldn't sugarcoat it. I don't hear Yekeh. Yekeh was duly elected, right? But he had no reason. He could have said it was alleged that land belongs to Guinea.
I agree.
That would have saved him all the problems he faced today.
All right, let me bring in.
Let me come in, Dennis.
To be fair, definitive, there, it amounts to giving your country to turning your country that parcel of land that is part of Liberia to another country. That I could say treasonous. Yes, it could amount to that. If you look at it in its entirety,
let me let the lawyer come in.
I understand the guy.
Before you come in, let me end this, right? Because his comment being so reckless, and it was even being played in Guinea, that Guinea could say, oh, but one of their lawmakers clearly said the land belongs to us. What if that could have amounted to some kind of crisis spark up between Liberia and Guinea, because Guinea said, okay, obviously one of the lawmakers had clearly said that if he knows more, he's a sitting lawmaker, he's a public servant or whatever, and he said that the land belongs to us, and then that means you're putting the lives of even our servicemen and women in danger. He further inflamed the situation. That's my problem with Yekeh.
Thank you. Let's hear from the lawyer, because I don't still see.
Yeah, Dennis, I understand the guy is not
I'm not a lawyer,
so I will understand his situation. And also, being a military man, one of the major crimes they deal with are treason, so it's very easy for him to just throw treason around. Okay, but look, honor the law. Every crime got a name. Once you can find a name for the crime, it means there is no crime. Every single crime must be written down in law and it has a name. No name, no crime. So when you say Yekeh commit crime, you should be in the position to say specifically which crime. And we can use words like could have, should have when you're talking about criminal activity. It must be something that occurred. It can be a could have, maybe it could be played in Guinea. No, you can't use could have when you're talking about criminal activity.
I didn't say could have. It was played in Guinea.
You said it could have been interpreted or it could have. You use could have and should have or something like that.
I said multiple times. That could have.
Yeah, you said it. You said could have. That's what I'm telling you. When you're discussing,
I'm not saying that it wasn't played. It was played in Guinea. They were using Yekeh's word against his own country.
So here's the thing, Dennis. Like I said, we don't need to talk about treason because the legislature left the treason part, and they only using. I think I put it in there. They left the treason, so no need to talk about it because the legislature knew very well that once they talk about treason, they bring it in the national police. They bring it in the Ministry of Justice. Once you mention treason, it means the legislature doesn't have control over it anymore. The Ministry of Justice have to take control, and the police have to take control. So the national legislature decided to leave the treason part of it and use administrative charges. And that's why I think I put the thing in the box, right? In the chat box, right? Then can you read out because I'm not getting to my list.
Okay, this which one? The penal
Gross breach of duty, misconduct in office. I mean, just a minute because that's the specific charge. The specific charge. They left the criminal part of it because they know very well that if they go that route, it will be in the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Justice and Liberia National Police. So they left that. It will be speculated for to even bring treason business in the picture because they didn't mention treason when they called Yekeh finally. They mentioned gross breach of duty, they mentioned misconduct in office, and they mentioned violation of his oath of office. That's why they mentioned. So, what, like I said, those charges and the specifics of what he did that constituted those things should have been written down on paper and given to him. And the rules that they were going to use to judge him or investigate him should have been given to him so that his lawyer would be able to advise him. And the failure to give him those things, and I mentioned two instances here in the private chat, the Mirrorbrook case and the Greenspan case. And in both instances, the Supreme Court ruled against the national legislature. In the Mirrorbrook case, they detained her, but they didn't give her due process. And the Supreme Court said, no, honor our Constitution, I think Article 21, before you deny a person of their constitutional rights, you have to accord them due process. Even more relevant is the case with Greenspan. The same thing, the Greenspan came with her lawyer. They said the lawyer will say nothing. The lawyer should sit out there and watch the show. Supreme Court said no. If you tell somebody to bring their lawyer, it means you must have a function for that lawyer. That lawyer can't just sit down and you deny the lawyer of an opportunity to say something and then you call it due process. It can't be due process. The reason why they document the cases and put it on the book is because they want people to read it so that when you want to make a decision, you can say, oh, but in 2016, the same thing happened to Greenspan. She brought her lawyer, but we didn't allow the lawyer to speak and the Supreme Court ruled against her. So let's not do it again because if you go back, the same thing will happen. But you know, this is Liberia. The politics is too strong. People play more politics than
I want to object to certain things the lawyer just said.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my objection here is the crimes that were committed, the Greenspan, the Greenspan and Mirrorbrook, it's totally different from what Yekeh did. This is something external. This was something he got him up into something that was an external stuff. Those all the internal wrangling and stuff. Those are different. We'll put those two cases that are all totally separate from what Yekeh did. The crime that Yekeh. I mean, you're a lawyer. You can bear me that.
But you keep going to crime, and they charge you for crime. So I don't know why you keep going to crime.
Listen, what they are going after him for? He committed something, dereliction of duty. He breach of his oath of office.
Don't guess it is there. They say
that's what I'm
misconduct in office, but don't be mentioning crime because that's not crime. Those are administrative things.
Violation. That violation,
yes.
And that's why they want to use the rules of their house to punish him.
Okay, and it's going to the Supreme Court, right?
And that is, look, the Supreme Court has no right over what happens within there. They will do whatever they will do. It happened to what's the name speaker Kofa. Whatever the Supreme Court never did it. Whatever they did, they still got him out because they
didn't take him out of the house. So when you take him out, like he can no longer be a representative.
That's the case because that's how serious Yekeh case is.
Okay. Let's start it small, right? Right. Yekeh said something.
But if we're discussing the legal issue, it will be difficult to have this conversation because
it's not we're not talking about. We are talking about. We are going straight back. I don't have to be a lawyer to.
But you mentioned crime with administrative lapses and other things.
What the house's rule is? If you violate the house rule, there are consequences for it.
Which rule?
So they decide. What we just whatever
No,
he
because I
just
got the house
posted.
rule in front of me, so I need for you to be specific. Which
they
rule?
said breach of his oath of office. That one of the issue that they're coming at him for, and
but it's not in the law, not in the rules.
I have not read it throughout yet, but I'm telling you that
I have it right in front of me. I have it right in front of me, and it's not there.
Okay, the violation that he committed is grave. It's a serious national security concern.
Mr. Tule.
What he did is a grave violation.
Mr. Tule.
Surrendering your territorial integrity to another nation is a grave violation.
Mr. Tule.
Yes, sir.
If he went and if he sold the land, then he surrendered. But if he made a statement, right? Number one, two things happening here. Is what they charge him with? Is it within their laws? The answer is
yes.
The answer is no.
No, hold on now. His oath of office, his oath of office alone is sufficient enough to punish Yekeh.
No, but how is that oath of office violation of oath of office?
Because you saw, it's almost like me joining the military, right? I swore to protect and defend the United States of America against all enemy, both foreign and domestic.
Right.
It's the same thing with Liberia. That oath of office is synonymous to what we have in Liberia. So when they serve in public office, they swore to the Constitution to defend and protect our nation against all enemy, foreign, domestic, anything. And Yekeh clearly, look, sometimes words matter. You don't have to physically say, hey, your count, this land for your count. Yekeh bringing you there. No. Once you put something out, as a legislator, it carries weight.
What if he said he wants to kill the president? If he said it with the word,
if Yekeh said he wants to kill the president, I mean, I can't say in America I want to kill Donald Trump. This I said, look, freedom of speech comes with responsibility. Not because you cannot go like you and myself cannot go to Walmart and say, fire. And if you can't prove that fire, you're going to jail.
All right.
Because you know what? Your action may have caused people to be running out of Walmart, and someone may have fainted or died or something. This is the same. This is a very, very perfect scenario that analogy that you can attach to the Yekeh situation.
Okay, so what Yekeh said and what the president did by not sending soldiers there to guard our border, which one is worse?
First of all, the president, we know, for me, I made a podcast on my own Facebook platform, being angry that we are a nation that is more reactive than being proactive. We allow something to happen before we take action.
So we didn't send soldiers there. That one is less than Yekeh, what Yekeh said.
You said what? If we send but it is not soldier. Military people do not man borders.
No,
it's not the military that man. It's not the military that man our border.
No, but there was.
Let's be clear first.
No.
The only reason I said that military should respond the same.
There was Guinea invaded Liberia.
Right. Yes.
So when that happened, what do you do with the military?
It requires military intervention. I agree with. I'm not.
Doing that. If you didn't do that, is that worse than what Yekeh said, or is less?
I mean, I could put that the same way. Like I could say that the president should, I blame the whole entire Ministry of Defense. Like who is advising the commander in chief?
Right.
Who is his military advisor? Who is the entire national security team?
Previous, right? If people invaded Liberia and they took our land, and you send the police.
And then this is what we already were talking blame. We're bringing it to the last guy, the top man, who is the commander in chief. We were from the time it happened, we never involved no lawmaker. We were our attack was constantly on. At the time,
cited, right?
Dennis, at the time, our attack was squarely on Bwaka and the land ministry, whatever.
Violation? Did he violate anything by abdicating the responsibility to.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I believe he should have ordered because he's a commander-in-chief.
But let me open the phone lines because so let me.
Yeah, but let me end this quick.
You will come.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Let me announce that 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403 #. Please call. We have 20 minutes to go in this on the show. So please call so you can be part of it. Complete your thoughts so that.
So Yekeh clearly was in complete violation of the office that he was serving in, right? Even though the president never responded as we all expected him to have done, but he said he was doing it he was fighting more so on the diplomatic side than sending forces to the border because he didn't want to.
But that's not why we elected him. If you are not
no, but he did something. No, he never just sat supinely, right? He did something. I'm not for that diplomatic. I mean, I said here earlier that both of these things could have been done at the same time. He could have engaged in diplomatically, but at the same time have our troops there. But what makes what brought Yekeh into this whole thing? When Yekeh came from Ghana, he made that comment at the airport, Ghana making new land. That was fine. Everybody laughed. He didn't leave it like that. Then no one went after Yekeh for saying Ghana made new land. Because we all know he was being sarcastic, right? But going on Spoon Talk and saying based on his investigation, that land belongs to Guinea, surrendering our territory to a foreign nation. That's a grave violation. It has a serious national security implication. That's why you got what about the legality? We're talking about him, what he did to the country. He should not have done it as a city lawmaker. He should not have done it.
Thank you. Thank you. So how do we think this is going to play out?
I think Yekeh should have just either say he misspoke, he's sorry, apologize to the nation. Go back on your platform. We would not have gone this far or initiating investigation on him and whatever. Just apologize. You were in the wrong. Period. You were. He was wrong. He's wrong.
Dennis, let me just come in. Okay, so this guy is a military guy, so I don't want to go too much into some of the things he's saying. But let me just make a clarification. The first thing that have never been done is an inquiry to establish the facts and circumstances and all the details.
Why you say so?
Because I didn't know, but man, you were talking, I didn't really interfere, so let me finish.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you're right. Go ahead.
So at that point, even the land in question, we don't even know if it's for Guinea. Because if we establish the facts and circumstances, and the facts and circumstances say this land is for Liberia, then we can say, okay, he said something wrong. But we have not established the facts and circumstances, so we don't know at this point whether this land is Guinea land, Liberia land. Those things are not clear. If the government has did that, it will be the first step. And like I said, the people who had a statutory responsibility to protect the border, immigration, the NSA for intelligence, the Defense Ministry, the AFL, nobody has called any of these people to account for negligence, for maybe it could be collusion with the enemy. Nobody has called any of them. So the whole thing to me is just political because everybody knows that for a long period, Yekeh has been like a thorn in the side of the current regime. Also, let's forget about being a lawyer. When something happens, we must investigate and establish the facts. It is the facts that will make us to maybe charge somebody, maybe for negligence, for collusion. We have that because there should be a border inquiry. There, for example, they say equipment was seized. Whose equipment was seized? What were they doing when the equipment was seized? None of that. Even the president went to Guinea. They had a discussion. The final communique telling us what really happened and who did what, nothing. So, but everything in Liberia is treated politically. I can understand with my panelists because he kind of mixing a lot of things up, and I just understand his situation. But I just want to say,
what do you mean mixing things up? I don't understand that part.
I don't want to go into the details of that.
I mean, being a lawyer doesn't mean you have a whole 9 yard when it comes
to you mixing. At one point, you say he committed crime.
But we already established that part. We've already clarified.
No, but you asked me to explain now. You gotta give me a chance to explain. Because I don't want to explain. You say I must explain. Now I want to explain. You're not giving me the chance to explain.
You and I have already clarified what Yekeh has done. I've told you, he was in breach of his own oath that he swore to protect and defend the country, and he went and made such a reckless statement.
But he's not the only person who swore an oath.
But he was the one who said something that he should not have said.
The defense minister swore an oath to protect Liberia.
But the defense minister never said
give me a chance. Give me a chance. Let's do it step by step.
I understand, but the defense minister did not say.
You asked me to explain. Give me a chance to explain.
Okay, but the defense minister did not say.
No. Give me a chance. Let me finish my statement.
Go ahead.
He's not the only person who swore oath. They're starting with the president. He swore oath to protect our border. He sat on there, Guinea crossed the border, and did what he did. He did nothing. Even up to now, he has not even sent a soldier to protect the border. The defense minister took oath. People invaded the country. The immigration commissioner took oath. Right? The chief of staff took oath. So there is a whole line of people that took oath. How all the people took oath and Guinea entered on our side of the border and did what they did. So if there's come to the oath of office, there are so many people, starting with Mr. Bouaka himself. He's the first person who took oath to protect the constitution, the laws, and the territorial integrity of Liberia. And he was present when people invaded the country, not one time, several times. What happened to his presidential oath? So the whole thing is political. I don't want to go into the details of it because as far as I'm concerned, it's political. Let's get to the Supreme Court. They might make their decision. Whatever they choose, that's, their prerogative. But I see it as mostly political because the people who are supposed to answer, AFL Chief of Staff, Defense Minister, Immigration Commissioner, those people have never been called to answer any question. But somebody go in a radio station and make a reckless remark, and now they're pursuing him. It's just political for me.
Okay, so Dennis, I want to respectfully disagree with the learned lawyer, right? Because all that he just said, why did not why never had an inquiry into whether that place that the Guinean crossed over to is Liberia, and you know that. All of you know that. Don't try to play politics and try to mesmerize the whole topic that we should make sure we establish the fact that where the Guinean came, it was like, bro, how you don't know? You as a lawyer don't know that place. That place has always been like our territory. It's always been our territory. We know.
Mr. Pule.
No, let me finish now, Jenny. You allowed a man to talk. You let a lawyer to talk. Talking you.
No, I'm saying how you said we know that place has always been like, bro. How? My friend,
did you not see? I mean, let's just put it in the little man, let's just put it in a little man perspective, right? Mm-hmm. Look at just common citizens who lived in that area for years, decades, almost half a century, or even a century. They said our land, the people keep to the people have been living. Those are Liberians. Hold on. Those are Liberians.
I understand where you're going. The first thing we do now. So let's have. Do you know? They said they took our equipment.
Our flag down. Our flag was hosted there first of all. Right. They took it down. If it wasn't our territory, why then our flag was hosted there for years?
I get it. So before that, they took our equipment. Mm-hmm. They took our equipment. Do you know which company? Do you know which equipment and what that equipment, the capability?
So as I learned that there was some dredge mining done in the Makona River. And I think inside of the Makona River, that is what the demarcation is between Liberia and Guinea. That Makona River in there. So
do you know the equipment they took? Do you know
I don't know. I don't know, but I think it was a man.
Do you know if that company is licensed to mine sand in that area?
Oh well, now that's a different board game. You are telling the whole conversation too, right? So they were mining.
Hold on, Mr. Tule. That's my point. Right. So in order for us to establish that, the president should investigate and tell us. Put people together to tell us what's going on.
But listen,
it has been almost a month. It has been almost a month. We really don't know. Councillor Tiawan Gonglo, he said, Mr. President, this is what we are hearing, that people in your government are the one mining mineral sand in this area. That's what angered the Guinean government. So investigate. Let's get to the bottom of the issue. That's what governments do when issues like that happen. You put a commission together to find out what happened. When Chief Goyon reported that people were training in Nimba, President Doe commissioned a group headed by Komo Sako to investigate. The lead of
but you know what? I'm sure
for us to establish anything, we should be informed. We're only guessing. Is everything about the border is what we read in the newspaper. We don't know anything else.
No, everything about the border, like where the Guineans occupy what is our territory, and everyone should know that. Our flag have been hosted over there for centuries and decades. Why you put out there? We should investigate that place belongs to Liberia before we. Is that what you guys are calling for? We should investigate that.
Do you know exactly what happened before the Guineans came?
According to the story, and it's
not story.
Yeah, no.
Facts.
Well, now you must don't have the fact. The people.
Exactly,
hold on. Listen. No, the fact that I have. Dennis, the fact that I have that. The fact that I have got. Remember, I'm from Foya. I'm Kissy. That whole region. That my hometown. I'm from Foya, 10 years. That place is Liberia. We should not argue that. The other circumstances that follow, who are dressing in what river, whatever, that issue, I don't have to. My only thing is the territory that was occupied by the Guinean forces is ours. This is our territorial sovereignty. That place for Liberia. That's why you see, look, our flag was hosted, and that indicates that. Huh?
Why the Guineans came there?
Why? Because you have one former junta leader who is very, very. Hold on, let me speak. You asked me why, and I gave you my.
You are speculating.
I'm not speculating. By virtue of their action, crossing over to another man's territory, even armed, is a violation of the Geneva Convention. Article 24 of the Geneva Convention clearly states that no other country can just. I'm paraphrasing. To go over to another country and just take over the territory or whatever, that's a violation. Guinea did violate the Geneva Convention because let me tell you one thing. There are a lot of things behind what Doumbouya did. Doumbouya right now he is a country that decided not to leave ECOWAS. Let me just cut it short. He wants to leave ECOWAS. He's trying to find every means possible to create some little problem that he can use. He wants to join the Association of Sahel nations. This is clear, and Guinea knows clearly that she has that military superiority over Liberia. It is clear. We know that. We are understrained. We lack that proper equipment and stuff. Our military ill prepared and stuff like that. Guinea, every nation study. They have their own intelligence. With about their bordering countries, they know what the military strength and military might are. So the issue of Guinea, I don't want to even dignify Doumbouya. Doumbouya was just being aggressive, and try to just show some strength. It's almost like what Israel is doing to the Palestinians and stuff. Occupy your territory after some time and go back and show I'm stronger than you. That's exactly what's going on here. Guinea will ultimately go back because when it comes to the legal party who owns, since you want to investigate whether that place belongs to all or whatever, when they go and find out the map, you definitely that place belongs to Liberia. It will be established and they will move back.
Who the place belongs to is not the only investigation.
No, that the first thing I wanted to debunk from the lawyer that we need to establish that the fact that that place, whether the place belongs to Liberia, and I mean for me, I just never thought that he would have even said that we need to establish that the place belongs to Liberia.
Anyway,
it's already established.
Let's leave that.
President Parker, let me add this. President Parker did call an emergency national security meeting. Some of these things that we're not hearing, sometimes when the information is classified, ordinary citizens like you and myself would not get, what we want to hear, right? Until maybe the president decides, because he's the only one that is close for that responsibility to declassify any information that is classified. He's the only one in the nation that can do that. Or he can get that duty to someone else. Say, you know what? Yeah, you go ahead and declassify that, and then you guys can put it out there. But as it stands, they are still going through the investigation. They are still going through who did that send money, who or trigger the whole problem that Guinean soldiers have to cross over to our country. So on the diplomatic front, I think it's working. But I think going forward, it should not happen. We should not allow another country to come and occupy our territory again. That is, to me, is it should not have happened. It should never happen.
And by the way, do we know whether the Guineans are still occupying Liberia or not?
They are not there. They are not there.
No, you can say.
But we have our immigration troops there.
They are not just to Makuna. They are also to the Kwajalein Boni.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You see, Guinea is trying to project some kind of strength, but Guinea obviously know that. I always take this situation to compare it to Israel and Palestine. Israel will just go sit in the post for 1 month, 2 months, go by and sit back because they feel that. Okay.
The reason I'm saying that if Guinea is still on the land, so that the Yekeh is so important.
No, Yekeh. No, let me tell you.
I interview people from that area as well. Mm-hmm. They are not able to go to their farms. They are not farming. People are moving. In fact, one man said he's going to leave and go to President Bouakar home in Foya. That's where he's going to stay because they are not able to do their activities. Okay, mm-hmm. And we leave all this. And he said because Yekeh said the land for Guinea.
No, but no. We already had a situation there already. We had a huge situation already. External aggression on our land, on our sovereign land. Mm-hmm. Then you have a sitting lawmaker who is supposed to oppose that, speak strongly against that, and tell the Guinean leader like, look, this is Yekeh should have been speaking for us.
I get your point.
That's my point.
Let's move on. Let's move on. If we were to arrange things into priorities, we say at least let's secure our border so that the citizens could go on their farm. But we are not doing that. Every time these people sit down to talk, we are spending money on Yekeh reckless statement. And if anybody has said that the government, the House would not attach this seriousness to it, we all know that it is Yekeh, that's why they are doing it, is political. It is not anything other than that, nobody's going to care. But because it's Yekeh, and they've been finding a way, so they have found this way, is like we catch you.
And Dennis, let me just inject here. I still maintain the AFL High Command should be called. The Immigration Commissioner General should be called. The Defense Minister should be called. The NSA should be called, because those are the people that have the statutory obligations to protect our territorial integrity. And if you conduct any inquiry and you don't call those people, it means you're not interested in the facts. You are interested in the politics. Like, okay, this guy, he's a noisy guy. He's always making noise. And so now he slipped up. So we're going to use this slip up and get rid of him. But you're not solving the problem, because at this point, the AFL had not told us why they were not able to protect the border, because the people keyed in and they went back. And even after the key in the weapon, AFL still not able to protect the border. But the defense minister who took office, he's not called. AFL chief of staff took off, he's not called. Immigration man took off, he's not called. The only person who is called is Yekeh. Apparently, Yekeh is the only person who took off. Even the commander-in-chief who's supposed to protect the territorial integrity of our borders, he hasn't said anything to the national legislature, and he took off. But everybody took off. But the only person who they have problem with is Yekeh. Apparently, Yekeh may be the only person who took off among all the people are discussing. So let's just go on with other things.
So Dennis, Dennis,
I want us to conclude.
The chief of staff, Dennis, the chief of staff cannot function if the commander in chief doesn't give order. Chief of staff you can't call a chief of staff to do anything. You know, he take orders from the commander in chief. So you can't call him to ask him what he would not move if the order is not from above.
My man, this is legislative thing we're discussing, okay?
No, you said no.
The legislature, if the legislature orders an inquiry, they can ask anybody.
The legislature will call.
No. You wait. If the legislature order an inquiry, no, you wait. If the legislature order an inquiry, anybody can be called in the Republic of Liberia to give testimony. So don't come and tell us what we know about legislative matters. Okay? Anybody can be called. They don't need any permission. You hold oath for office. If they all of them took oath for office, they're not one person took oath for office. They all took oath for office.
We got to conclude, gentlemen. We got to conclude. We have 4 minutes.
I was trying to,
we have 4 minutes to close.
Yeah, that wouldn't Yekeh to oath of office in Liberia.
So Dennis.
No. We can't go beyond 2 hours. So we have 4 minutes to close. Use 1 minute, Mr. Tule, to give your closing, and then Mr. Freeman 1 minute to give your closing.
So yeah, thanks for the show. I think it was I came in late, but and then thanks to the panelists, for the kind of healthy discussion. It's always good to differ, sometimes, But look, the president in his wisdom is handling the way he says he's handling it, right? But I believe I was one of the person who found on why is it that our military, first of all, we don't have, the kind of force that we should have had to be able to man every part of our country when it comes to issue of external aggression and stuff. But they said they're doing it diplomatically, or we went for war, we're developing our country, we don't want to get into problem, we don't have money for war, and this and that. Those are the excuses they came up with. To me, it doesn't suffice. There's no excuse for you sitting there as the commander-in-chief to allow another country to occupy any territory of ours. But as it seems, right, I think it's working on the diplomatic front. We're not seeing like back and forth between two militaries and stuff. My only disappointment is that they should try to ensure that we man all our porous border. This is a lesson learned. Going forward, we need more money allocated to our defense budget so that we can augment our defense, and not just leave it as it is. But again, the president called a national security meeting, and they know what they're taking care of. If the legislature should call anyone in for questioning, all the people he was naming are people. They simply call it the justice minister. The justice minister. All the people are on the arm of the justice ministry. You call the defense ministry. For the chief of staff, you don't need to get him in. That guy's a military guy. He operates by order. Once the order comes from above, the commander in chief said, "Look, I need 1 battalion to be deployed over there." Yes, sir. Yeah, and they would have been deployed. So you don't put it on the chief of staff.
The commander in chief call you yet? Maybe that order will ask him. Mr. Freeman,
yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. No. With the issue of the inquiry on the Yekeh thing, you can bypass due process. If you follow the Mary Broad case, you follow the Grace Bank case, you will know that if they don't follow due process, chances are the Supreme Court may rule that the action was unconstitutional. When it comes to the investigation, for the record, for history, there must be a commission of inquiry to establish what happened, how it happened, when it happened, where it happened, so that for posterity, for ourselves to understand what happened, and for the future, even if we were to go to an international commission to investigate, then our investigation will be some of the evidentiary material that will be submitted for international investigation. So Liberia is doing herself a great disservice by not doing a national investigation into what happened. When it comes to calling people, Yekeh cannot be the only person who took oath in the Republic of Liberia. The president took oath to protect our border. He sat down there getting him into Liberia on multiple occasions. He took oath. The defense minister took oath. The immigration commissioner took oath. The NSA man took oath. The chief of staff took oath. All these people took oath. But obviously, because in my view, the matter is political, Yekeh has been a big noisemaker against corruption in the government and other things, and they don't like him. So they are using, and they could move him out of the legislature. It wouldn't solve any problem. The problem we have with Guinea, I don't really see it to be major. But what is major, if you ignore that investigation to establish the facts, if you ignore those people who have a statutory responsibility, tomorrow it may not be Guinea, it could be Africa Coast. And maybe tomorrow Yekeh will not be around. Then who will hold responsible when there is no Yekeh to hold? And Africa Cross on our side, and there is no Yekeh. Will we now call the defense minister to explain? Will we call the justice minister or the AFL people to explain? So it's not about Yekeh. There will be no Yekeh tomorrow, one way or the other. Maybe he will die or something else could happen, God forbid. But something could happen. Sierra Leone could invade us tomorrow and no Yekeh. So will we not investigate because Sierra Leone invaded us and there is no Yekeh? So, I mean, but you know, Liberia, we just continue to see the deterioration in our governance landscape. People continue to leave the law, play politics. And Liberia have been playing politics for the longest. Where is the development in Liberia for all the politics we play? So let me stop on that note.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for the time. I want to thank our viewers for watching. Join us tomorrow for Friday night debate right here on Focus on Liberia. Until then,
forget to always send me the link. I'm back.
Says, we are all Liberian. Have a good one.
All right, guys. Thank you.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.